Welcome back, guys, to the Remember Why You Started podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Higgins. Today, I wanted to kind of break down who I am, how I kind of turned the page in my life, how my childhood, my high school, my college dreams kind of changed, and it created a new me. For me to just jump right into it, I guess I can start with just a young kid having a dream. I feel like when you're born, every individual is basically planted a seed. Now, as you get older and as you go through things are going to change. You want to water that seed, and that seed is your dream. When you get older and you get to the high school, college, and as time goes by, people are going to tell you that it's not realistic, and that's when they kind of bury it with soil. In order to kind of become your greater self, you have to always water that seed and give it some type of sunlight, and that sunlight may just be you. It's self-affirmation of that you can do it and you can be whatever it is you want to be. Me saying that is kind of how I went about my life and how I'm continuing to go about my life. When I was younger, it was so much about sports and also like who I am and becoming the best version of me. My father would go out of your way to say thank you, Mr. and Mrs. You shake hands, you be respectful. This is in your household, little things like that. And that formulated me creating who I am. As I got older, it was so much time into football, right? I did play basketball, played both, and then junior year, it was just full-time football. And I put everything I had into it. Like when people say everything you have, like that's really what you want to do, that's really what I wanted to do. It came down to the point where I was in high school and I was working out at 2:30 in the morning, and the whole theory behind the 2:30 is what I'll get into. And then I go to school, I'd come home, I'd do my schoolwork, then I'd go to the weight room, I'd go do a speed and agility, whether with my dad or somewhere else. Then I'd come home, I'd finish school, I'd make sure my calories were in, and then I'd go to bed. That's another thing. When you go into being 100 miles an hour and being 100% committed to yourself and whatever it is your dream is, like you really have to be 100% in. And a lot of people say like, I want to be great, I want to do this, but like they're really not willing to sacrifice what's needed to be sacrificed. You have to be willing to basically have like a blind faith, right? If you want something you never had, you have to do things you never done. So you have to take yourself to some like crazy point of discomfort in order to grow. You can't grow when you're comfortable because you just get lazy. Lazy people don't win, and that's what I tell my kids every day, even when they're training. Lazy people don't win. Whole theory behind 2:30 in the morning, actually, and kind of how I started training so early and how I established such a crazy routine. My mother, my junior year of high school, got misdiagnosed with Cushing's disease. So anyone who is familiar with Cushing's disease, basically it was a tumor over her adrenal gland, and with that, it forced her to put on, I don't know, maybe like 60 to 70, 80 pounds. Through this, your body starts basically breaking down. You start losing your hair, you have severe osteoporosis, the symptoms go on and on. She's someone who's like always been into working out. My parents have always worked out early, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So seeing her go through this and see the mental challenge that she endured during it, and the fact that like she's doing everything she can. Like she went down to basically eating 300 calories a day and she was still putting on weight, which scientifically doesn't make sense. So when she wanted to try to get into shape and she knew how into like health and fitness I was, she's like, hey, Kev, can you take me to the gym in the morning at 2:30? Because at the time, retro fitness was 24 hours. And she didn't want to obviously be seen by everybody because she felt uncomfortable. She had the courage to obviously take the next step and do things that are necessary. Her having that courage and, her trusting me to kind of get her where she needs to be, it was a lot of responsibility, not physically, but also mentally. The trust that someone's going to put their kind of life and their vision in your hands. So I don't want to let you down. I went on for a little while, and then I was just always in the habit of waking up, working out. And that's how the crazy routine and work ethic started. And now I have to kind of backtrack in terms of how I'm going to bring that into play. When I graduated high school at the time, I was, like I said, fully committed to playing college football. I did everything you could possibly do, right? I trained 5-6 hours a day, studied my SAT, I got, whatever the score was, I got into everything I could. When the time came, my uncle had passed away, it just kind of changed me. It wasn't me. I lost my love for football. I felt like something died inside of me when he passed, and, I couldn't really find it. I couldn't figure it out. As I went on with my life, I was like, bouncing back and forth. I think taking care of him at home kind of made me want to be a nurse. And I saw my mother as a nurse, and, that's what made that career path happen. And as I was, becoming a nurse, I was like, you know what? Well, that's it. I'm playing football. Like I need to start making money. So I would be a nurse, but while being a nurse, I was like, let me have 3 other jobs. Let me start really trying to make as much money as I can. And it kind of burnt out. I didn't really focus on being a nurse because in the end, that's not what I really wanted to do, right? That was just something almost like a distraction at the time. When I went into the distractions and I kept going on about my life, you just kind of see yourself unhappy. And my grades obviously weren't where I needed them to be. And nursing school was extremely difficult. And anyone who's a nurse, kudos to you. You're unbelievable. I decided not to do nursing. I wanted to follow the career path of my father, my brother, my uncles, doing a union. So when I started to work towards the union, and I started to change obviously how I went about everything. I was a electrician for a little while. I took all my tests, waited in line for plumbing tests 3 days. I remember they gave me the call to go take my final test or my final interview, and it was like a month away. And during the month, I fell through a ceiling, and after falling through a ceiling, I think the next day I went to the electrical warehouse to go pick up light switches. And while I was there, somebody I had recognized from previously when I was in high school was like, "Oh, dude, like whatever happened? Like, why'd you stop playing football?" Like I remember hearing it, and everyone was asking me all those questions. And I felt so out of place and uncomfortable because at the time I was like, my dad sacrificed so much for me, right? Like he barely slept. They spent, as much, they really didn't have money to spend, and they spent everything on me to get me where I wanted to be because I was so passionate about playing at the next level and, being that 1%. So when I heard that, it was like, fuck, like, where am I? Who am I? Like, I didn't even recognize myself. And when you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself, it's like a humbling, upsetting, feeling. And I think that is what turned the switch for me. And then I was like, all right, well, I have to change. So I went back to things that made me feel good and like a sickening routine. And that's what brought me back to like when my mother was ill, right? Because I wanted to train. I was so passionate about football, so passionate about helping. I started to do that again. I started waking up at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I started working out. I started posting it a little bit, nothing serious. One of my cousins at the time was like, "Hey, can you help me?" "Yeah, sure, I'd love to." She's like, "I see you're back into fitness." Like, so I wrote up like some nonsense program, and it was legitimately nonsense. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. Like, you could probably find something better on Google Images. Because she stuck with it, it wasn't really the workout. It was just me believing in her and pushing her. And she got great results, and she posted it. And she posted it, and someone else posted it. And a few questions raised, and I started reposting it. They're like, "Oh, do you write programs?" And I was like, maybe I can. You follow these guys, and you see these guys, and you're like, they did it, why can't I? Right? These people were so successful in this, why can't I? And that mentality, I'm very thankful that my father gave me. Like, I remember going to basketball games or big football games, and you would see all these guys who were like crazy ranked, right? Top in the country, top in the state. And, the rest of your guys you're with are like intimidated. And, your dad's like, "Fuck this kid. You're better than this kid. You're going to tell me this kid works harder than you? He wants it more than you?" Like, he wasn't up the same time as you were up. And the fact that like just him saying that so routinely every day, like, fuck this guy. Right? You're better than him, right? You have to know that you're better than him. And that I just kept, and it just kept, and I just kept it. And that's what kind of made me start to see things differently. From there, what I did was I started writing programs, right? I didn't think anything of it. I started posting myself, though, every day. And I wrote my own program. I posted it every single day for 30 days. I got crazy results. Now, from our results, I was like, all right, this is going to be the program that kind of takes StoneFit off the map. So I posted actually on Instagram. I started studying marketing a little bit. I was like, I need an email list. I need people to actually see this. I said, the next 24 hours, this program's 100% free. And this program that I was giving away for free was the previous program that I gave my cousin, the nonsense cookie cutter. I got like 210 emails, right? Everyone just slide up and message me. So when I got their emails, I was able to then, like 2 weeks later, post on my email my transformation, the new program that I had, and how amazing this program was. I remember the first week of sales, we sold like 527 programs, right? And we crushed it. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is fun. I enjoy this. I love this. Now, the problem was like I couldn't kind of just jump into it because obviously you need money, especially at that time when I texted my parents after like denying the union. And I was like, "Mom, Dad, I won't ask you for nothing. I don't need your help. I don't care if I make $5, $10, tons of money. I want to be happy. I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to do things that I'm not happy with." And I started, with the electrician, but I would go home, write programs. I go home, I train. I trained my boss's son, my boss's son's friend. And then at one point I was like, you know what? Screw it. That's it. I'm done with electrical. I'm going all in. At the time, I only saved up a little bit of money, nothing crazy. Then when you think about the money that's like you make and the money you put into the business, it's like everything's 100% reinvestment. I went out, I bought $50. It was the best investment I ever made in my life. I bought 2 ladders and a pack of cones. With the 2 lives and a pack of cones, I was able to create this. And, now we're in a facility, and now we're continuing to grow. Through that process, I learned so much about myself, right? I started to develop myself. I focused on myself. I spent so much time with just myself. I only thought the relationships are going to come, the money's going to come, the networking is going to come. I had to fight through so many demons and challenges to become who I am today. What I mean by that is when you kind of want to do something, right? And when you want to change your life, you have to go through those things by yourself, right? You have to be comfortable in your own skin. Until you're able to accept 100% who you are, what you have, and the blessings that you already endure, you're not going to be able to accept more into your life. And it's all about self-development and, just taking little steps. There's actually a book written in 2019. They just made a little movie about it. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. In the book, the boy and the horse are in the woods, and they're walking, and it's pitch black. And the boy says, "I can't see my way through the forest." And the horse says, "Can you see your next step?" And the boy says, "Yes." And the horse says, "Okay, then just take that." And when I heard that, that's kind of how I approached when I started my business. Right? I didn't look at the long-term goal. Right? I didn't look at it as I told my parents I was going to make it. I told them I didn't need them, right? Because it's so overwhelming. Because you look at it and you're like, I'm making no money right now. I'm making zero money for the last 2 months. How am I going to survive? Let me throw in the towel real quick. I need security. So I just focused on my day, right? Because I want to win the day. My whole thing was I want to win the year. I want to win the year, you have to win the season. To win the season, you win the month, the week, the day, and the day of the morning. And I just approached it by, I'm going to win this specific battle, this specific day. I'm not going to look in the future. I'm going to look at today, where I am right now, where my feet are. When you win those little battles, eventually you win the war. Now, I have tons of battles routinely that I continue to, battle. And I'm hoping that in the grand scheme at the end, that seed that I planted, that plant kind of flourishes. And then I could look back and I won the war. A lot of people also ask me, you're going to get burnt out because they see the hours that I work now. Because in the end, when you're trying to build yourself and you're trying to build your business, you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're working out, you're going here, you're posting, you're here at 4 o'clock, you're setting up the gym, you're teaching 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, middle of the day, right? I only have 3 hours during the middle of the day. So what do? Right? I'll work out, I'll get to my emails, I'll try to do as much as I can in terms of the business aspect of things, right? Being here is one thing. People think oh, you're here, you're only working 3 or 4 hours while you're here. No, because the second you get home, right, you have to go on your computer. Now I have to get emails, I have to blast emails, I have to market, I have to network. There's so much. You're never not working when you're growing a business. You don't get burnt out doing something you love. It's just not how it happens. Being burnt out comes from stress. Stress doesn't come from hard work, right? Stress comes from not taking action over the things that you can control. My weight, let's say, right? I'm going to be stressed if I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. I'm going to be stressed if I'm not financially stable, right? But you can control those things. Some things are obviously out of your jurisdiction, but for the most part, you control what goes into your body, right? You control how many hours you work. People are like, oh, you have some nice things. Yeah, well, I also work 80 hours a week. That's another thing that people don't understand. If you go work 80, 90 hours a week, guess what? You're going to have more too, right? And that's when it comes down to you have to be willing to do more than everybody. You have to be willing to outwork your competition 100% of the time, not just always. It kind of takes me back to when I was talking about going to play college football, that discipline of this is where I want to be. And in order for me to be here, I have to do certain things to get here. Right now, I'm going to Dallas in next week, 12 days actually, right? Dallas, I'm going to hang out with Devin Levesque at his ranch. I'm super excited about it. My girlfriend actually got me a ticket to go for Christmas. Now, he runs a networking event in Dallas, Texas. He owns a ranch. They have tons of different businesses, corporations go down there, and you can be able to meet new people, kind of just branch ideas. And I know that I want to look presentable. So right now, I'm extremely disciplined in my training, what I'm eating. I want to go there, and I'm a representation of myself. In terms of myself, that's also one of the key things in terms of growing a business. People look at growing a business as, let me grow the business. In the end, the business is not your brand. You are your own brand. Right, I need to grow Kevin Higgins as best as I'm able to grow Kevin Higgins. Kevin Higgins, StoneFit is nothing without Kevin. Right? Anything I put my hand on is nothing without me. So in order for those things to flourish, in order for those things to grow, I need to grow myself as an individual. Right? I need to be willing to put myself first always. I need to be, put myself out there and adventure and network and grow. And the more people know who I am, what I believe, my morals, my values, things that are important to me, then those things will do well. right? You don't really think about money. You don't think about you don't think about that down the road. Like I said, you just take the first step. When you take the first step, what's in front of you, those things will come, right? Everything comes with time. You have to just be patient. As you continue to grow and as you continue to change, especially what happened to me, what I did is I'd go to bed and I'd listen to certain videos, actually. Self-affirmation is probably the biggest thing. You talk to yourself in, I think it's the present tense, like I am successful, right? I am financially stable. I am healthy. I am strong. You say these things and eventually it just starts to become your reality. When I first started, I remember I deleted all my social media for 21 days because I wanted to develop a habit. I wanted to basically rewire my unsubconscious mind in the way I think and the way I see things. And now I feel like I see the world in a completely different way than anyone else. Like I don't stress anymore at all, remotely. You could hand me something that could be life-changing and I just laugh. And you could ask my girlfriend and people who are close to me, like, you get mad? I never get mad. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. It's bad for you. And, I know that in the end, it's just another day. I'm going to continue to get better. And, I live where I am now. I focus on the things that aren't happening or focus on all the exterior. I can never let it bother the interior. And when I rewired my brain, I would listen to these things and I'd go to bed. And it's funny because if you probably walked in on me sleeping, you would hear them. I don't listen to them as much anymore. Instead of listening, I say them. What I have is a piece of paper and it's thumbtacked to my wall. Every morning I put my finger through it. It says, I am this, I am this, I will this. And I have my goals. Right? And I feel that if every day I go through it, I put my finger on it and I go through it just twice a day. I wake up and I walk out of my room right before I go to bed. And I'm constantly telling myself this. And I could see myself in the future. When you live in it, as I see myself in these shoes of where I want to be and what I want to do, my goals are so much more than anyone could probably think. Like, I don't care about certain things, right? I care about making the people I love better, right? Putting them in the best situation possible. My community, like I would love to leave behind like an amazing facility with amazing like things to offer for this town. Like that is my goal. I want people to remember what StoneFit is, who I am, what I believe, what I stood for. Those things play such a role as, like I said, you're growing your business. And I'm kind of just trying to reach out to anyone who wants to grow their business, anyone who's scared to take the jump. I try to listen to the things that I did, try to emulate them. In the end, like that's all it is. Everything is recycled information. At one point it was, whatever it is, one sporting goods store. Now there's thousands. Everything is recycled information. How can you take something, put your spin on it, and then create? I started to approach the way I work out different. Right? I started timing everything. I started looking at the structure, what works for my body. And then I kind of just flipped the switch and I found something, right, that just works. I truthfully feel it just works for everybody and anybody. And I recommend everybody to come try a class, right, or come try a week. But I wanted to make something that like anybody at any level can just jump right into and feel comfortable. I wanted to create an environment, a family that's so welcoming. Like you don't feel like, an outlier in a class. When I go to like a retro fitness or like a workout world, whatever it is, and you see these people who go in there, especially older women, and you see them, I actually think of my mom too, like they go in there and they're so courageous, right? They have so much courage. And they're uncomfortable and you see they're uncomfortable, right? And they're trying so hard to change their life. And when you see that and I look at it and I'm like, if I can only be that courageous to do those things, like if I can be that courageous to just help them and, go out and adventure and grow in so many different ways and start the podcast, do the YouTube, like what am I waiting for? Right. And that's why I started this, because I feel that while I'm here, I have to make the most of what I'm doing, who I am. And like, I want everyone to follow me on the journey that I'm going to go on the rest of my life. Right? There could be 1 subscriber or 5 million subscribers. I'm going to continue to just be the same. I'm going to show you, how I go about my day, when I wake up, my routine, the way I live. And, talk about 5 million subscribers. My biggest thing, my favorite quote is, money doesn't change you, money exposes you. People think that like, oh, if you get any money, then that person's going to change. No, it's not. Like the person with $10 who's generous, if you give them $1,000, they're going to be extremely generous. And that's kind of how I am, I feel. I wake up, I read a Daily Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius. He is always talking about like basically how he built his empire and, things that helped him become who he was, that great ruler, and what built his city and his empire. And it's just so inspiring, and it's so awesome to listen to and see. And you see things, people who are great leaders and the things that they do. How can you get people to follow you as an individual, right? Because in the end, like you see, like today's influencers, they're really not influencers. They're not influencing you to do anything. They're not influencing you to become greater. Half the time it's just buy my product, they're fake. They're not really transparent. They're not going to come on here and tell you the things that they don't want you to know, right? Because everyone's got a shadow. Everyone has a shadow, and you can't be fake. You got to be 100% real. You got to be transparent. If you want to take the next step in your life, there's 24 hours in the day. Out of these hours, think about it. What is it? You sleep average 8, right? I sleep 4. Naturally, my natural alarm clock wake me up at 3 o'clock always. 3:30. And the crazy thing is, like, obviously being in health, I understand that you do need sleep and you do need rest. But, I just believe that some people can be wired different, right? There's certain things that wake me up. And like today, I was so excited to come here because it's the new year. I woke up naturally at 2:56 today. And I was so excited to come here. I was like, it's the new year. Like, I'm going to crush today. I'm going to make today like a statement of how I'm going to represent myself for this whole entire year. I have certain, things that I'm going to do every single day. And, it goes back to writing it down, like focus on what I did today. Right? I've been home for 5 minutes and I got here today at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to leave here tonight at 9:30. Right? But there's so much that I need to get done and I don't want to waste time. Right? That's the biggest thing is like eventually your time runs out and I have to give it back. Right? I'm just borrowing my time right now on this earth. And when I give it back, like I want to make sure I maximize every second of life. Like I don't want to waste it sleeping, sitting on my phone. I want to experience as much as I can. And, in terms of experience, this year, like I want to do so much. I want to try new things. I want to study new things. I want to go out. I want to get uncomfortable again. I'm excited to do those things. And ultimately, that's going to lead me to such a life of purpose and success, I feel. So really, like for anybody who is kind of lost, has an idea of what they want to do, how they want to achieve those things, or just unsure of yourself, write it down. Focus on today. And you can only control what's in front of you. Focus on today. You win the morning. You win the day. You win the week. You win the month, the season, and the year. And you accumulate all these wins, you'll win the war. Right? You'll become who you want to be. Your plant will flourish. Right? That seed, just keep watering your dream. Right? And then just like remember why you started. You were so down on yourself. You were so unhappy. Like I remember as a child, like my parents sold their wedding ring to give us gifts, right? They sacrificed so much. I owe it to them to become my best version of who I am. I owe it to myself, right? I put so much time into my life, into becoming greater. I can't just let it go to waste, right? I have to grow. I have to take the next level. But yeah, just remember why you started and, continue to develop.